Hi, I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be making a necklace. It's called the Ruffled Rings necklace, and this is by a lady named Kelly Wiese from her book titled A Beaded Romance. I'll have a link in the description box that will apply to all the products used in today's tutorial, including a link to her book. So if you click more below this video, you'll get all the details, including a link to my website. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to review these materials. Now this necklace is made in components, and they're little circles that you're making at two different sizes. So we'll go over how to make each one, and then I'll explain the rest of the pattern to you as we go along. So for materials, you're going to be needing some 15-0 Miyuki seed beads, and these are, let's see if I can get these to focus. These are in it's kind of a purplish color. It's called dyed silver lined red violet. These are 15-0s. You're going to need quite a few of these. And you're also going to need some 11-0s. And this color here is called, let's see, deep violet. So I've got several different shades of purple. It might look kind of blue through the camera, but these are actually kind of a purple color, called deep violet. So I've actually got two different sizes of 11-0, so I'll tell you what these are next. Now you're going to need another color of 15-0s, and these are all Miyukis, by the way. And this particular color here of this 15-0 is called Aqua Purple Lined Luster. It's got kind of a rainbow finish to it. So two different 15-0s, two different 11-0s. These 11-0s here are the exact same color as these, and it's the dyed silver line red violet, Miyuki brand also. You're also going to need some 3mm beads here. If you could see those, very tiny. And this particular color is called deep violet, and everything's in a purple shade of some sort or other. For tools, you're going to need some flat nose pliers. I like to use this to squeeze down the end of my fireline to help making it threading through the needle a lot easier. You're going to need 6-pound fireline. I'm using Smoke for today. You'll need a sharp pair of scissors, and I'm using a size 12 beading needle for today's project. All right, so I'll have links, as I mentioned, in the description box. It's going to have all of the counts, weights, and measurements that you need for how much fireline you're going to need and how many grams of each color you're going to need. You're going to need a lot of beads, so check out the description box to get all the information. And if you want to make one with me, grab all your materials and we'll get started. The first thing we're going to do is thread our needle with about a couple of yards of our 6-pound fireline. Now you're going to pick up 28 of the 15-0s that are in dyed silver line red violet. So you're picking up 28. So there I have a total of 28 15-0s. I'm going to bring that down. And you want to leave about a 6-inch tail. So this is my working thread up here on the top, and my tail thread's on the bottom. So I'm just going to place my finger here and just kind of pinch my fingers on each side and hold my beads straight. And I'm going to put my needle back through all of the beads, so I'm coming from the tail side going towards the working thread. So when you do this, just make sure that you're not missing any beads. So as you can see, I have my needle passed through all 28 beads. I'm going to pull that through and just hold on to your tail thread. Make sure that doesn't slip past you. So I'm going to just pull that thread, draw that together, and just leave a long enough tail, and I'm saying about 6 inches because we want to weave that in after we do our second row. So now that I've passed through all of my 28 beads, here's my working thread. There's my needle. I'm exiting here. I'm going to go back through the first bead where I started. So with your needle going through, back through that first bead, you're going to just hold that together, pull your thread, and that will close that gap. And you've got your little circle there. So if it gets loose on you, just pull the threads together. So here's my tail thread over here on the left-hand side, and this is my working thread. That's what it should look like. So now we're going to be doing a peyote stitch. So you're going to need 14 of your 50-0s in this same color. So take your needle, pick up one of your 50-0s. We're exiting this 50-0 here. We're going to skip the next bead and go into the following bead. Just hold your thumb over that as you pull. Pull that together. And you want that to kind of stack on top if you can get it to stack. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just kind of get it to stack on that last bead if you can. You might have to move it over with your fingernail, and if it gets loose, just pull on the tail thread. Alright, so there's my first bead slightly stacked. I'm going to grab my next one. Exiting this 50-0 here. I'm going to skip this next bead, go in through the next 50-0. Just try to get it to stack like that. It doesn't have to be perfect because the next round will be giving it a different look. So you're going to pick up another 50-0. Exiting this 50-0, you're going to skip the next bead and go into the following bead. Pick up another 50-0. Exiting this 50-0, skipping the next one, and going into the next 50-0. So that's kind of what it should look like. If they stagger a little bit, don't worry about it. So you're going to continue adding a 50-0 until you've got 14 all the way around. I'm coming down to my last two beads, and I'm going to pull this tail back out of the way, picking up my next 50-0. Exiting this bead here, skipping that one, going into the next 50-0. Picking up my last 50-0. Exiting this 50-0, skipping the next one, and I'm going to go into the next 50-0 and also the one on the diagonal to step up. And that completes the one row of peyote stitch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set this needle down on our working thread, and I'm going to thread the tail thread so that we can weave that in and get that out of the way. So here's my tail thread. I'm getting a second size 12 beading needle, and what I like to do is I will squeeze the end of my thread just a little to get it to flatten. So then when I'm threading my needle, it goes through so much easier. And it helps to go through the eye of the needle. I missed it. Let's try that again. There we go. Super simple. All right, so here's my tail thread. I'm going to see where my direction is. Okay, that's my working thread. This is my tail thread. It's going this way. And as you can see, it's coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to advance through the next two beads going in this direction. And it's a little tricky. If you can't go through two at once, you can do one bead at a time. So I'm just going through there, pulling my thread through. Now I'm going to do a half hitch knot. I'm going to go underneath the thread bridges like that till I get a small loop, bring my needle through the loop, pull my thread, and tie a knot right there just to fasten it. Now I'm going to just advance my needle through the next 6 beads. So I'm going to go through 2 at a time right in the inner circle. So I'm coming out here, I'm just going to go in through these next 2, and you have to kind of, sometimes you might have to bend your work a little bit to get your needle in there. It's a little tricky. Well, there's 1 bead. Excuse me. We'll go 1 bead at a time to get through this second one. Once I've done the knot, I like to advance through at least 6 more beads. All right, so I'm going to go through these next 2. Right there. And then I'm going to go through 2 more. Right there. Let's pull that together, make sure you don't have any thread sticking out. Now I'm going to take the needle off the tail thread and I'm going to cut this little tail off. That way it is out of the way. So just be careful when you're cutting that you're only cutting your tail thread and that you didn't get a bead caught in there. All right, so now we can go back to our next step. Our next step is going to be using the 11-0s in the dyed violet color. And you're going to need 14 of those. So I've got 4, let's see, make sure I have 14. Here's 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 3 more. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle. Right now our thread is exiting this 15-0 right here. We're going to pick up one of your 11-0s and we're going in through the beads that are sticking up. So you've got this one you're exiting, you're going into the next 15-0 that's sticking up right there. Pick up another 11-0. You're exiting this 15-0, going into the next 15-0 that is sticking up. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. Pick up an 11-0, go into the next 15-0 that's sticking up. And continue all the way around. I'm coming down to my last 2 beads, picking up an 11-0, going in through the next 15-0 sticking up, picking up my last 11-0, going in through the last bead that's sticking up, which is this one here, and you're also going to go into the 11-0 on the diagonal. That's what you should have so far. For our next step, we're going to be working with the 11-0s in the dyed silverline red violet and the 15-0s in the aqua purple lined luster. So we're exiting the 11-0 in the violet. We're going to pick up 2 of the 15-0s and 11-0 in the silverline violet, and then 2 more 15-0s. That's what you should have. We're exiting this 11-0 bead. We're going into the next 11-0. And it's going to form a little peak like that. They're not all going to look the same as you get around, but that's the gist of the pattern. So you're going to go through each segment, you're going to pick up 2 15-0s, an 11-0, and 2 50-0s. Exiting this 11-0, going into the next 11-0. Do that again, pick up 2 50-0s, and 11-0 in the Silverline Violet, and 2 more 50-0s. We're exiting here, going into the next 11-0. And just kind of flatten it with your finger if they curl up, which is normal. So you're going to continue doing that pattern all the way around. I'm coming down to my last segment where I need to add, and as you can see, it's kind of a tight squeeze there. You're picking up your 2 50-0s, your 11-0 in Silverline Violet, and your other 2 50-0s. Exiting this 11-0, we're going into the next 11-0. And just kind of pull that, see if you can get it to flatten out a little bit. Might be a little unruly on you, but that's okay. It's all going to ruffle here when we get the next two rounds on. So that's what it should look like. As you can see, you get all these little peaks, and if they're slightly irregular shape, that's the way they're supposed to look. So your thread should be coming out of one of the 11-0s right here, going in this direction. So we're coming out through this bead right here. So that's where we're going to go pick up from for our next step. For our next step, we're going to be working with the 50-0s that are in the Aqua Purple-Lined Luster. So right now we're exiting the 11-0 in that light violet color. I'm going to be picking up 5 of my 15-0s. Then I'm going to go from this 11-0 into the very next 11-0. So I'm exiting here, going in through this bead right there. And that's going to form a little peak on top, and it's going to stick up, as you can see, giving it a little bit of a three-dimensional look. So we're going to do that again. Pick up 5 of our 50-0s, and we're exiting this 11-0 here. We're going into this very next 11-0. Now we're going to repeat that. Pick up 5 more 50-0s. You're exiting this 11-0 here, going into the next 11-0. As you can see the color variation, we're going from here to here. And when you pull, try to make sure that that little peak is sitting on top and not caught on one of your other ones with the dark bead. And you're going to repeat this step all the way around. So we're going counterclockwise, picking up 5 50-0s, exiting the purple bead here, the 11-0, and we're going to go into the next 11-0. And you really have to start to peel these back to see where you're at, because you want to make sure that you're going through these 2 beads here. And as you rotate, just make sure you're going through the right bead and that you're just going through the 11-0. So I'll do one more with you. Pick up 5 50-0s, exiting here, going into this next 11-0. Right there. Pull. And make sure you don't have any slack in your thread. Pull nice snug. Make sure that it's laying right on top of the previous row that we did. And continue adding in increments of 5 all the way around, and you're doing this a total of 14 times. Okay, so I'll see you when we get to the end. I'm coming down to my last 5 15-ohs, exiting this 11-oh here, and I want to go into the very next 11-oh. So it's kind of hard to see because it's getting crowded here, but that's what we want. So we're exiting here. I'm going to go into this next 11-oh. It's the last one to do, right there. And pull that nice and snug. Now, if you're not sure if it's seated correctly, you can pull it up with your needle and just reseat it, make sure it's sitting properly. And it should be kind of in front and on top. So that completes my 14 little ruffles here of 5 seed beads each in the size 15-oh. So right now my thread is coming out of this 11-oh. What we need to do is we need to get our needle to come out of the other side, because we're going to do this on the other side. So I'm just going to pass my needle right through my work, right underneath where that 11-oh is that we're exiting. You're not going through any beads, you're just passing your needle through your work to the opposite side so that we can reach this easy. So now I'm going to flip this over, and as you can see, we're now going to be going counterclockwise. We were going clockwise. I think I told you wrong before. We were going clockwise, now we're going counterclockwise. So right now my thread is coming out of this 11-oh here. It's kind of hidden. And I think it got caught, so let me get this untangled. All right, so with our needle coming out of the other side, so we've done the ruffling on this side, we've flipped it over and our thread is coming out of that 11-oh where we left off. So now we're going to repeat what we did here on this side. Same thing, you're going to pick up 5 15-ohs and you're going to bring your needle into the very next 11-oh. So here I'm exiting this 11-oh, and make sure you peel back so you can see where you're going. You don't want to skip any beads. We're going into this next 11-oh, and it's kind of hidden under there. But that's where I want my needle going through. And you're going to pull that. Make sure your ruffle is on top, so just kind of pull your thread up and pull, making sure it's not getting tangled and that it's seated correctly. And you're going to do that same thing all the way around. Pick up 5 15-ohs, exiting the 11-oh, going into the very next 11-oh. I'm coming down to my last 5 15-ohs on the second side here, exiting this 11-oh here. You can see that. Trying to pull it back so that you can see where my thread is. I'm exiting this 11-oh here, and I'm going into the next 11-oh right here. Kind of hard to see, but that's where we go. That's the last one. Pulling that, make sure it's seated correctly. And we've done that on both sides. So that completes our ruffled, and this is a large ring. So we're going to, right now, we're going to tie this off. So my thread is coming out of this 11-oh in here. I'm going to advance my needle through a 15-oh that is on the top side here. You see that 15-oh there? And it's right next to the 11-oh, and it's stacked on top of the inner row. So you're going to pass your needle through that. Now I'm going to tie a half hitch knot by going under a thread bridge, and my thread is right here, so I'm just going to scoot my needle underneath these threads right below where my thread is coming out. Make a small loop, pass your needle through the loop, And make sure you're placing that knot in between your beads. Pull that nice and tight. And all we're going to do now is just advance through the next 6 beads, and then we'll cut our thread off. And if you can do multiple beads, that's fine. Go two or three at a time. I went through 3. I'm going to go through, and you're going through the inner row that's on the inside. And I'll go through this bead here, go through those 2, pull my needle. I'll go through a few more. I'll go through these last 3 here. And you're just weaving your thread in because we're going to be cutting this off. All right, that's good enough. So I'm going to clip this thread off. And this completes our large circle. So that is the steps on how to create this large circle. So you're going to be needing to make a total of 20 large circles. So here are my 20. I've been busy. So that's the first part of this necklace. So once you've made 20, we're going to go on to the next step. Now that we have completed our 20 pieces of our round circles in the large size, we're going to go on to the next step, and that is to create a smaller version of what we did in our first step. So this is the large circle, and this is the small circle. So this is what we're going to be making next, and it's very easy. The steps are basically all the same, except we're using a different count. So to start, you're going to pick up 24 of your size 15-0 seed beads in the silver lined violet, which is this color here. So I have my 24 15-0s. I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to leave about a 6-inch tail. So just like we did with our other circle, we're going to bring our needle back through all of the beads. This is my tail thread, and this is my working thread. So I'm going in this direction. Make sure you don't miss any beads and pull your needle through. So I have just a long enough tail to be able to weave this in after we get our next row on. So I'm going to bring my needle now through the very first bead where I started. And I'm going to turn this around. So this is my tail thread on this side. This is my working thread. Now I'm going to be picking up 12 15-0s of the same color, and we're doing peyote stitch. So I'm exiting this bead right here. I'm going to pick up a 15-0, skipping the next bead, going into the following bead. And if you can, try to get that bead to stack on top. If you can't, that's all right. It's all going to work out just fine. So now we're going to pick up another 15-0, exiting this bead here, skipping the next one, going under the following bead. Again, pick up a 15-0, exiting this bead, you're going to skip the next one and go into the following 15-0. So that's what you should have, and you're going to do that all the way around. I'm coming down to my last 15-0. I'm exiting this bead here, skipping this next bead, going into the following bead, and I'm also going to go into the bead that we started on the diagonal. Just pull that together, and that's what you should have so far. So I'm going to set my needle down, and I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to weave this tail thread in. So take your flat nose, flatten your thread, put your other needle, go ahead and thread that through. And I'm going to just weave this through. I've got my tail thread here exiting this bead here. I'm going to come through the very next bead on the inner circle. I'm going to do a half hitch knot right here. So I'm just going to bring my needle underneath the thread bridges, bring my needle back through the loop, and pull. Now I'm just going to advance through the next 4 to 6 beads, and then I'll cut my thread off. So now that we have that out of the way, we're going to continue adding our third row, and we're going to be putting the 11-ohs in the dark violet. All right, so for our next step, our thread is exiting this 15-oh right here. We're going to be placing our dyed violet bead, the 11-oh, in between each bead that is sticking out. So pick up an 11-oh, go through this next bead that's sticking out. Pick up another 11-oh, go through the next bead that's sticking out. And you're going to do that all the way around. So you should have a total of 12 11-ohs going into each of the little spaces there. I'm coming down to my last 11-oh. So we're exiting this 15-oh, we've got our 11-oh, and we're going to go into the last 15-oh that's sticking out, and you're also going into the 11-oh where we started on the diagonal. And that completes our row for adding the 11-ohs in the dyed violet color. For our next step, we're exiting our dyed violet 11-oh. Now we're going to pick up a 15-oh in our aqua purple-line luster color, and then we're picking up our 11-oh in the silverline purple or violet, and another 15-oh like that. We're exiting this dyed violet 11-oh. We're going into the very next one that's sticking out. Just like in our large flower, however, we're using less beads. So we're only adding one 15-oh on each side. Pick up your 15-oh, your 11-oh, and your 15-oh. Exiting this 11-oh, going into the next 11-oh. Again, pick up your 15-oh, 11-oh, 15-oh. Exiting this 11-oh, going into the next 11-oh. And you're going to do that all the way around. I'm coming down to my last segment here. I've got my 15-oh, 11-oh, and 15-oh. Exiting this 11-oh, going into the last 11-oh. And as you're doing these, just try to get them, try to flatten them out because they're going to start to bunch up. Just not a big deal because it's going to ruffle when we add our next row. So that's what you should have so far. Your thread is exiting the 11-oh in the dark violet. Now we're going to be adding our first half of our ruffle on this side. Our thread is exiting this 11-oh. Now we're going to pick up 3 of our 15-ohs in the aqua purple-lined luster, exiting this 11-oh, going into the very next 11-oh. And that's going to sit right on top in front of this 3 beads that we added on previously. So it's going to sit on top and it's going to stick up like that. Now we're going to do that again. Pick up 3 of your 15-0s, exiting this 11-0, going into the next violet 11-0. Do that again. Pick up 3 15-0s, exiting here, going into this next 11-0. And just make sure, because it's going to start to get a little bunched up and crowded, just make sure you're able to see that you're going into the correct bead, just the 11-0. And you're going to do that all the way around. I'm coming down to my last 3 15-0s, exiting this 11-0 here, going into the very last 11-0. Now that completes this side of doing our ruffled area with our 15-0s. Now our thread is exiting this 11-0 here. What I'm going to do is I need to do the other side. So I'm going to pass my needle through right where this 11-0, where I'm exiting, just underneath that bead. I'm going to pop my needle through that hole just to get to the other side. Like that. Now I'm going to flip this over. And now we're going to be going counterclockwise, doing the same thing we did on this side. So I'm picking up 3 of my 15-0s, exiting this 11-0 right here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right there. I'm going to go into the next 11-0, going in this direction. And you just rotate, pick up 3 more 15-0s, exiting this 11-0. I'm going into this next 11-0, right there. And just make sure that sits on top. You're going to do that all the way around. I'm coming down to my last 3 15-0s, exiting this 11-0 right here, going into the very last one. And it's kind of hard to see. You're just going to have to kind of push this back so you can see this is the bead I need to go into. And you know when you're at the end because you've got your 3 15-0s where we started. So make sure when you go through that you're just going through the 11-0. It's getting kind of tight, so notice that that's where my needle is going through for my last 3. And just pull that up and try to get that sitting on top. If it gets caught on, just loosen it and then reseat it. So that completes both sides of adding my ruffle. So now I'm just going to tie this off, do a half hitch knot, weave my needle through a few beads, and then cut my knot, and then we'll go on to the next step. So right now I'm exiting this 11-0 here. I'm going to bring my needle through the 15-0 that is just above the inner circle right there. I don't know if you can see that. Doesn't matter which way you go. You just want to get your needle through a few more beads, and then we're going to do a half hitch knot right here. So I'm coming through this 15-0 that's sitting on top. I'm just going to bring my needle underneath these beads like that till I have a small loop. I'm going to bring my needle through that loop and pull tight. Make sure that knot sits in between your beads as best as you can. Pull that nice and snug. Now advance your needle through 4 to 6 beads. So just continue advancing till you've gone through at least 4 to 6 beads, and then you can cut your thread off. All right, I'm going through these last few beads here. And here's a good point where I can just clip my thread off. Just be real careful you're not getting any beads caught in there. Just snip your thread off. And that completes making the small circle. So you need to make a total of 20 of these. As you can see, I've been very busy. I've got 20 little circles in the small and 20 circles in the large. So you want to have all of those done before we go on to the next step. This is a very timely process, so you really have to commit quite a few hours to making this project. But it's well worth it. You're going to have a beautiful necklace when you're all done. So go ahead and do all that, and then I'll show you how to assemble, and we'll be able to complete this project. All right, for our last step, now we get to start assembling all of our large and small circles together. So for that, this is what it's going to look like. We're basically just doing a connector to attach the two circles. That's a large and a small, and you're alternating large and small circles throughout. So I'll show you how to do this next connection. You're going to start by picking up an 11/0 in the silver lined violet and a 3mm round, and you can use any 3mm bead you have in your stash. You're going to do that 8 times. So you're picking up 11/0, 3mm, and repeat that so you have 8 beads of each one separated by the 11/0. You're going to bring that down, and you're going to leave a short enough tail that you can weave in. I've got about maybe 6 inches of tail left here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that through my small loop and also through my large loop, just like that, just through the large hole. And now I'm going to bring my needle back through all of the beads, going in this direction. So this is my tail thread. My working thread is up here. I've gone through the small loop and the big loop. Now I'm going to pass my needle back through all of these beads. And it's a little tricky because you're having to go through the beads and then you have to go through the circles again. So we're going to pull that together. Now I'm going to go through the small loop again, and through the large loop. Going to pull this all together. Till that's all your beads are meeting each other like this. It's kind of hard to see, but you should get the general idea. You're just doing a loop around to connect the rounds. So now that we've done that, you're going to pass your needle back through all the beads several times, at least 3 times. So here's my working thread coming out this side. I'm going to go around all the beads again until I'm back to where my working thread, tail thread is. So I'm going to come back through, make sure you're not skipping any beads, going through all the beads on the connector. And I'm going to pass that through till I'm back at where my tail thread is. Just take your time. Make sure you're not skipping any beads. Okay, I'm going to go through the circle here. So I think my tail thread's on this side. And I'm going to pull this all together nice and tight. There's my tail thread, there's my working thread, so I'm going to make sure all the beads are close together, and I'm going to do a surgeon's knot right here so I can tie this up. So I'm taking the tail thread, I'm going to put that over the working thread and bring it through the loop twice. like that. And we're going to pull and create this knot real tight. And now you're going to take your working thread, and we're just going to pass through all the beads again for the third time. And if it gets caught, just untangle it. And we're going to go through a few more beads on your connector, and then we're going to do a couple of half hitch knots. So I'll do a half hitch knot right here, coming under the thread bridge in that loop, bringing my needle through the loop, and I want that knot between those beads. Pull nice and tight. And I'm going to go through a few more beads. Coming back around. And I'm going to clip my thread off. So you're going to want to go through these, I'd say at least 3 times. Do a surgeon's knot, half hitch knot. I'm going to cut this working thread off. And now we're going to put a needle on our tail thread and weave that in, do another half hitch knot. Very simple process to do, the connecting. You're just weaving around the beads through the circles. Just make sure that you're alternating small and large circles. Now I'm going to take this tail thread and just weave it in. Doesn't matter which way you go. I'm just going to go through a few beads. Go underneath a thread bridge, do another half hitch knot right here. Go through a few more beads. And I'm going to cut my tail thread off here. And you're going to repeat this process. Very simple. So my next connector will be the small circle, picking up an 8/0 and a 3mm 8 times, bringing it through, and then tying it off on both the tail thread and the working thread. So that's what it's going to look like, your little connector there. So go ahead and do all that, and then we'll wrap up this video. Very simple. You're not going to have any clasps because the length of this is going to be long enough to slip it over your neck. You won't need any lobster clasps of any sort. So it's a long necklace that'll work great for like sweaters and such. All right, so go ahead and get those all connected, and then we'll conclude our video. All right, now that we've got all of our circles connected, I'm going to show you how to finish this off by doing the last connection. So you should have a large circle and an end circle at the end of each, the large circle on one end and the small circle on your other end. And what you want to do is you want to lay out your necklace, making sure that all of the circles are flat. You don't want any twisting. If you do, that's going to mess you up when you try to do the connection for the last piece here. So just like we did, that's the only thing you want to remember. Lay your necklace out flat, and you're going to pick up your last segment here of your 11/0s and your 3mm. So we're doing that 8 times for each of your beads. So I'm going to bring that down and leave about a 4 to 6 inch tail, just enough to tie a knot. So there is my last segment of beads. Now I'm going to bring my needle. This is my working thread here. I'm going to come up behind the circle as it's laying on the table. And just hold on to your tail so your work doesn't move around too much. Just draw that through like that. We want to scooch those beads down just a little. So my thread is coming from behind the circle, and I've got this one laying flat. So now I'm going to come going through the top of the circle, going in behind like this. So just hold that down so that your work doesn't get twisted. Pull your thread gently. Take your time. If it gets caught on anything, just fix that. And I'm just going to pull that, try to get this together. Now I'm going to bring my needle back through all of these beads. Let's bring this up so we can see. So I'm using my fingers to kind of hold it down on each side, like that. And this is my tail thread on the bottom. So I'm going to bring my needle going in this direction. Make sure you don't miss any beads. This little guy decided to jump off. We'll pick him back up. And just gently push that needle through. Now we're going to grab that, and I'm going to hold my tail thread here so I don't accidentally unravel this, and I'm going to pull this thread all the way and just get your tail thread out of the way. As you can see, there's the connection. So now I'm going to bring my needle behind the circle to follow the thread path. So I'm going like this underneath through the circle from behind. Pull your thread gently. Take your time. Now I'm going to follow the thread path, and I'm going to go through the circle on this side, going through the top, coming from front to back like this, and just pull that to get your thread started, and just hold that. Take your time as you're pulling this. We're going to kind of draw this together. So with my thread exiting this circle here, I'm coming from the top to the back. I'm now going to bring my needle through these first 3 beads right there. Just kind of pinch and pull your needle through. Pull gently till you get all the slack out of your thread. Make sure your tail thread is where you can grab it. So now I'm going to just kind of draw this together by pulling both sides of my thread like that until you've closed that circle. So here's my tail thread on the right, and my working thread is on the left. So that's what that should look like. Now I'm going to take my needle, because my working thread is coming out of the left, going in the left direction. I'm going to just start advancing my needle through all of the beads until I've met up with the tail thread over here. So I'm just going to keep going around. You can go through as many beads as you can and just kind of pinch your work as you're pulling your needle through. Take your time. Make sure your thread is not getting caught on anything. I'm going to continue advancing. It's kind of hard to see, but just follow your thread path through that little loop. I'm just going to stick my needle through the next 2 beads, so I'm coming out of the circle on the back side. Now I'm going to flip this a little bit so I can see where my thread is, and I'm going to keep continuing advancing through the next few beads. Now I'm going to go through the large circle like that. And just make sure that your thread isn't getting caught on anything. So right now my thread is coming out of this 3mm bead here. You can see where my tail thread is a couple of beads away. So I just want to advance through the next 2 beads until I'm right next to where my tail thread is. So I'm going to pinch and pull to draw the slack of my thread. And if it gets caught, unhook it. Pull your working thread until everything's together. So right here is where my tail thread and my working thread are right next to each other. So I'm going to do a half hitch knot first to close that circle as tight as I can. So here is my tail thread on the right hand side. I'm going to cross that over my working thread, and I'm going to bring the tail thread through the loop one time, and I'm going to pull that nice and tight. You want to make sure that you've pulled that tight enough that your loop is nice and secure and closed. So now that I've done that, I'm going to do a surgeon's knot now. So I'm taking my tail thread, I'm going to cross over my working thread. And this time I'm going to bring the tail thread in through the loop twice. There's once, there's twice. And I'm going to pull really tight. And I'm going to cut my tail thread off. Now I'm going to secure this by advancing my working thread, going to the left direction. I'm going to go through all of the beads 2 or 3 more times. So we'll go ahead and do that. Keep advancing through all of the beads until you're back where you started, and we're going to do that again. And as you're advancing this, you can rotate your circle a little bit like this by pulling on it, and it makes it a little easy to maneuver. So I've been through that one time. I'm going to go around one more time, and then I'll cut my thread off and we'll wrap up this video. So here is our finished project. Quite a few hours to do this particular project, so it's a real time commitment. I will put timestamps in this video in the description box so that you can see where each component is made. If you need to go back to that particular timestamp, it'll tell you where to go and how to do the small circles. I'll put a timestamp for that, and the connectors, and very easy. As you can see, there's no clasp. The finished length on this ended up being about 30 inches. So this is a type of necklace you just slip over your neck with that beautiful winter sweater of yours, and off you go. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at all that detail with the little 15-0 seed beads. Very beautiful. And imagine you could try making this with contrasting colors if you wanted to. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. This concludes today's tutorial. And I want to thank you for joining me today. I'll have links in the description box below with all the products used in today's tutorial, along with all the weights and measurements. I have a website where I sell my own jewelry. You'll see a link to that as well. If you're not a subscriber, I hope that you do subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified when I upload new videos. I also want to thank all of you that have subscribed and you keep sharing my links, so I'm getting new viewers, and you like and comment on my videos. I really do appreciate that. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Happy beading, and I'll see you next time.